Hi, I'm Frank Cascio, the founder of OpsCheck, and I'd like to take you through the demo. There are many benefits when using OpsCheck, and it can be described several ways, but perhaps a simple description would be it enhances the control and oversight for business operations and compliance. Mitigating operational risk is paramount and supported by having the right procedures, policies, systems, and people in place. What OpsCheck does, it helps ensures that every job is getting done, every deadline is met, and that people are accountable for signing off on their jobs that are completed. OpsCheck, unlike other applications like Monday.com, Asana, and things like that, we were built by financial operational experts for the financial industry, so that is our specialty. My background goes back many years. I ran global operations for 2 big hedge funds, as well as being the COO and CCO for a few smaller ones and having sell-side experience early in my career. But it wasn't just my ideas and thoughts that went into OpsCheck. After being in business for 5 years, there have been many comments, suggestions, and requests for new features that I would say many other experts have helped develop it to where it is today. The whole team benefits at OpsCheck. It's not just for the C-level management, middle management, and staff. Anyone in the organization will benefit by using it, and hopefully you'll see that through the demonstration. Our clients are global. We are around the world. We have clients that are both big and small, and it's a diverse group, anywhere from hedge funds, private equity, to financial services, family offices, traditional asset managers, and others. And they're also very high quality managers that I'm happy to share offline. So no more spreadsheets, emails, and Outlook are needed to manage business operations. Basically, we combine proven advancements from task management, project management, and workflow software into one single tool. It has excellent capabilities for working remotely. One client described it as sophisticated but not complicated, which means it's very easy to use, very easy to get started, but yet we can do a lot of fairly sophisticated things. And it certainly promotes a culture of accountability and operational excellence. OpsCheck is broken down into 3 main modules: notes, tasks, and workflow. Just go over the tasks section for first. So basically, you can track various types of jobs with the ability to connect any critical detail. So when you create these tasks, you can add reminders, attach policies and procedures, assign them to the right people or departments. And then when you complete them, you can add notes, comments, backup documentation, approvers, and so on. One of the main parts of OpsCheck tasks feature are the repeatable tasks. What needs to get done daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, as well as custom periods like month end plus 5 or 10 business or calendar days, quarter end minus a few business or calendar days. It's very flexible, the calendar process. We can also help you track one-time tasks as well as any ad hoc work. We have the concept of a template. So for those occasional jobs, you can create templates and call them up when you need them. And we could also help you track projects if it's a personal project you're working on as well as a team project. The workflow feature is for those type of events that may require multiple steps, could be various people and even people from different departments in order to complete that bigger goal or that bigger job. So what do I mean by that? Maybe you're onboarding or offboarding a new client or an employee or an investor. Perhaps you're running through a due diligence process. Maybe you're launching a new fund or a new business, or rebalancing a portfolio. And there are many others, but what all these types of events have in common is that they're usually multiple steps performed by various people. It could be different departments, all with the goal of accomplishing one of these workflow processes. But the main differentiator between using the task feature and workflow is that you don't know when these events are going to happen. So you basically build out a library of templates, and then you call them up on demand when you need them, and everyone knows what to do. And you have a great tool and transparency to see where you're at every step of the way. And then lastly, we have the notes feature. This is kind of rounds out the field. Even though we can handle one-time and repeatable tasks and ad hoc work, as well as those events where there's multiple steps with various people and departments, now we can also help you track those simple reminders and to-dos. Maybe you have to finish an internal report or return a call to a client or a colleague, prepare a client meeting or maybe a team meeting. Your simple to-dos basically helps you replace any notebooks and yellow stickies that you have gathered around your desk. Now let's sign into OpsCheck and we'll take you through the application. So here are the three modules I talked about a few minutes ago: task, notes, and workflow. So I want to take you through the process of creating a task. Before I do that, in order to better understand, under your personal profile, and I'm Neil Armstrong in this demonstration, we have an area with a user guide as well as tutorials. I want to just go over one slide under the general overview. This will help you better understand how work is organized. So in OpsCheck, we organize work by department followed by category. Department could be another word for a folder. It's just your highest level of organization, followed by category, which could be a tag. It's basically a way to put additional information in there in order to organize your work in a more granular fashion. So for example, maybe your department is accounting and your category is NAV. And you may have 20 or 30 different tasks that go underneath that structure. But now you have a great way to organize and retrieve that information when you need it. In fact, you could even put a second category on there. So maybe it would be accounting, NAV, and specifically for the ABC fund. So you can go as granular as you prefer. Another example could be perhaps back office or middle office operations as a department with a category of reconciliations or reporting. And then you may have a bunch of tasks that go into those groupings. Another example could be compliance with a category of regulatory filings, and you may have a group of those as well. We also have three different types of users. A user is a person that can go into OpsCheck, sign off that a job was completed. They can add notes, comments, backup documentation, and even approve their colleagues' work. A manager, of course, can do anything a user can do, but additionally, they have the ability to add, edit, and delete tasks, but only within their assigned department. So when you create a user or a manager in OpsCheck, you have the ability to grant and limit their access as to what departments they can have that transparency in. So let's just say, for example, many people, you're going to give access to both accounting and operations because it might make for better coordination and communication between the two groups. But perhaps you want to limit how many people have access to compliance. So when you create these types of users, you can grant and limit that access accordingly. A senior manager is like a super user or an admin. They can do any function in any department. Okay, let's go create a task. I'm going to go back here, click task. So in order to create a one-time, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, end of month, end of quarter, and any of those custom periods like plus or minus month end with a certain amount of calendar business days, we need to first fill out what we call a new task parent form. Now, before we do that, I'm skipping this process, but basically we have to populate in the admin area departments, categories, and users. I'll show you that later on. It's a pretty fast process. So let's create a task and stick with that thing we were talking about earlier. We want to create a task in the accounting department under the category of NAV, and we'll put a second tag on there or category for the ABC fund. Now, performer is the person that needs to do the job. That'll be John Glenn. The owner can also be John Glenn, but if you're working in a bigger organization, you may want to give that responsibility of the owner to maybe a supervisor or a manager. Now, let's say they're going to take care of the weekly valuations. So we have to give it a name and a description. I'm going to call them the same for now, but you could put more information here if you'd like. We said this would be a weekly task. We want it to start on Wednesday the 15th, and we want to push the finish date out 3 years, and we are in the Eastern time zone. So once we complete this form and save it, we're going to create 157 tasks. So what we're telling OpsCheck to do is create a weekly task assigned to John Glenn to take care of the weekly valuations. We want it to start on Wednesday, and we want it to run for every Wednesday for the next 3 years. So once you save this, all these individual tasks will be created from this one parent and be stored in the database and come up on everyone's calendar and task list according to their due date. Now, this is a pretty simple bit of information here, but we also have some options. Once again, these are options, anything in blue, but depending on how you run your firm and the type of job you're doing, you may want to use these. If you're working on a project, maybe you want to have several people added in as collaborators. If you wanted to attach certain policies and procedures, then every one of these 157 tasks will have the written policies and procedures attached. That could be good for cross-training, it'd be good for audits or regulatory examinations. It'd be great to have your policies and procedures to show for every job that gets completed. You may want to have one or several approvers attached to the job. So the job wouldn't be considered completely done until the approver went in and did their part afterwards. Notify users just is indicating that you want an email sent to a certain amount of people saying that the job was completed. You may want to do that for FYI reasons, or maybe you want to ping your colleague to say, my job was just done. That's the indicator for you to go in and complete yours. Time tracking. If you use this feature, then every time John completes the job, he's going to be forced to put in approximately how much time it took to do that job. It's a great way to build good empirical information on the average time it takes to do any job. Reminders. Now, for a weekly job, you probably don't want a reminder email, but maybe you're doing some kind of big quarterly report or regulatory filing, and maybe you want a 7, 10, 15-day notice. Whatever number you put there, you're going to receive an email that many days in advance of the due date just to remind you that it's coming due and nothing slips through the cracks. In fact, if the task is due a certain time of day, you may want to get that reminder in either minutes or hours or minutes before that task is due, which leads us to the last one, and that is due time. Certain jobs need to be done by a particular time of day. So if this one has to be done by 10:30, if it's not completed by 10:30, emails will be sent out, and then the people responsible for this job, it'll be in their inbox by 10:31, letting them know they missed their deadline. So once you save this, these tasks will all be stored in the database, and you have all these options as well. Tasks can now be displayed and completed on your task list, as well as your calendar, as well as your dashboard. So let's go to the task list. First thing I want to mention on the task list, I want to talk about the filters. The filters are the detail that each task has, whether it's a department, category, performer, the due dates, the status. You have many different ways to fill in this information and display the tasks you're looking for. And OpsCheck is also very customizable. You have the ability to click and drag what filters you want displayed, as well as the order you want them displayed in. You can also customize your columns, task name, department, category, performer, owner. You can arrange them any order, or you can hide some and only put out certain ones that you want to see. So once again, right now, the only filter I have here displayed is today's date. So since Neil Armstrong is a senior manager, he can see tasks in the operations group, collateral management, accounting, compliance, and so on. If you wanted to filter that further and say, only show me the tasks that are today, but only in the accounting department. So now we've narrowed it down to tasks for today's date, as well as for the accounting department. If you wanted to fine tune that further, say, show me only tasks that Neil Armstrong is the owner of. So as you can see, based on the information, those would be the tasks displayed. So let's just go back and look at tasks that are due today. So the next thing I want to go over is these different types of statuses. We have this status, meaning the yellow, meaning it's completed, but it was completed late. That's because this task had a due time of 7:30 this morning and wasn't completed till 1:55 in the afternoon. So it was completed, but the status is completed late. This one was due at 9 a.m. this morning and still hasn't been completed. So that's why this is a late status. This one was completed on time, and this one doesn't have a due time. It just has today's date. So it's due at 11:59 tonight, which way it means it has an open status. So once you put your filters in, display the jobs you're trying to complete. Now I'll show you how to complete it. So let's just say this daily trade matching job that wasn't done now needs to be done. Once that job is completed, you could just go here and click it that it was done, or you can actually click here on the bar and get this overlay, and you can put some information here. So you may want to say, we had 2 issues with Goldman Sachs, now resolved. Now, once you enter that, this is auditable, which means we can tell you the date and time and who put the note there. So if someone else that has access to the same department wanted to put their own comment in there, we would timestamp who said what and when. The other thing you can do is you can always attach a backup document. So if you wanted to go down, attach a document, you can easily do that and now mark it complete. Oh, this one also had the time allotment. So you may want to say this job took only 30 minutes to do. So now, not only do you have the timestamp, you have the person that completed the job, the day and time it was completed, it's all stored in the database. You have the status of completed late, and indicated by these 3 white dots, you know there's a document behind this, a comment, as well as how much time it took to do it. So you never have to go around opening up different tasks to see if there's additional information. It'll be indicated by these white dots. So easily open it up. You can see who said what and when. You can open up the backup document to prove the work that was done. And you can even see that this job took 30 minutes to do. And one more thing I want to mention about these filters, you can easily go back in time. If you ever had to retrieve and verify what was done, you can do that as well. So let's just say you're sitting with auditors or regulators and they said, I'd like for you to produce for me what was done the last quarter of last year in the accounting department, specifically all the work that was done to calculate your NAV. Within seconds, you can produce the 194 tasks there were. You could see who did the job, when it was completed, was there any additional information. You could read all that. You could page up, page down, export it within seconds and hand over that information on an Excel spreadsheet proving all that work. Now you can also do many of these jobs right on your calendar. So this, of course, is a calendar view that comes with its own filters. So let me clear the filter right now and say, make this a personal calendar just for Neil Armstrong. So now these are all Neil's jobs. This is the 13th. All the jobs are right here. You can see the status, the name of the job. And once again, if you click anywhere in the bar, you can even get the task overlay and put the additional information in there. Now, if Neil is looking to take some time off in September, he could see what his calendar looks like in the future. If you wanted to change this to a compliance department calendar, this is your compliance calendar, or change it to an accounting calendar. So you have all these different options using these features, as well as the ability to complete these tasks right here. And back to the screen we originally opened up to, which was the dashboard, and your tasks will be displayed right here. So these are all personal tasks for Neil Armstrong, anything that's past due or due today and tomorrow. You could look a week ahead or 2 weeks ahead if you like. And the same ability to complete it right there, or click the overlay and put the additional information right there. So before I go on to workflow, I do want to mention a couple more things about tasks. We also have the concept of templates. As I said earlier, if you have an occasional job, any ad hoc request, you can always create a template and save it in the template section. So let's just say you're constantly being asked questions by clients or investors, and you wanted to create an area to document and memorialize all the work you're doing in that area. So if you got an ad hoc request, you could call up your template. You've already set up your department and category for ad hoc requests. You can now document what the request was, and once you save it and complete it in your task section, maybe you want to use your filter and say, show me everything, let's just say from the beginning of the year until today, that you worked on specifically with ad hoc requests. So easily you have a whole folder. Once again, you can download it to a report and you can easily justify all the ad hoc work that you're working on. And then the last thing, when I talked about projects, everything really is driven off of a due date, but we also have a concept of a pending date. So you can see right here, these two jobs have a pending date. So maybe this was a personal project that you're working on, renegotiating commission fees, or maybe there's a team project that's being worked on about reviewing all your legal agreements with the counterparties. So you could go in once a week, once every 2 weeks, whenever you work on it, you could just call up this job. You may want to add any important notes, for lack of any other words right now. We'll just say important notes. You can always say what you worked on and what the notes were. You could add another document to it, and you could just keep it ongoing. And then the next time you work on it, you open it up again, and then you put your additional note in there from there, or any additional documents. So whether it's a team project or a personal project, all you have to do is record your pending, and you can easily call up any of your projects as well. We even have the ability to create a search and save it. So if you wanted to just create a search and say, call it, let's just say projects. So now you have a saved search for projects. So let's just say you're now working on all the jobs that are due this week, and now you want to come in here and say, let me just update my projects. You go right to your saved search for projects, and it's going to bring it up right there. Okay, let's go through workflow. So as I mentioned earlier, the workflow feature was designed to help track any type of event that may require multiple steps. It could be various people, even from different departments, all with the goal of achieving a bigger initiative. And the main differentiator between using workflow versus tasks is that you don't know when these events are going to happen. So for example, here's some examples. First, we're going to go to what I call your library of templates. So here's a template for any time you're going to take on a new subscription, or perhaps a capital call, onboarding a new client, onboarding or offboarding an employee, running through a due diligence process, rebalancing over your portfolio, or maybe just evaluating a vendor. What all these have in common is that they usually require multiple steps. It could be different people in different departments with the bigger goal of achieving this bigger job of onboarding a new client. So we're going to open up the workflow right here. So the workflow itself consists of tasks the same way I showed you earlier, but except they don't have a frequency. These are all one-time tasks that are all connected in order to achieve this bigger goal. So for instance, if we're going to onboard a new client, somebody's working on the new account form while someone else is looking at AML KYC, lawyers are looking at legal docs, accountants are looking at tax implications, who's setting up a bank account, compliance is doing a compliance review. All these jobs need to get done in order to onboard your new client. So the first thing you do is you're going to call it, let's say, Jones Associates. So now you're specifically giving the client that you're trying to onboard the name of the workflow. And then once you save this down to a new workflow, that is the trigger to activate this. Once you save it as a workflow, all these tasks will now get assigned to the individuals. So for instance, this job is now going to go to Gordon Cooper in the compliance department. This job will go to Neil Armstrong in the accounting department, while this job will go to John Glenn in the compliance department. So all these different jobs will be now assigned to these individuals working on this workflow. So once your workflow is activated, it can be managed from the workflow section. So here you can see it's a workflow here for onboarding Yardley partners. You can see there were 13 tasks involved with that onboarding. 11 were done. And you can see one is late right now. So if you wanted to drill down and see the detail, once you press this, it's going to take you right back to the task list. It's going to highlight the only filter here for workflow title. and you can see all the individual jobs for onboarding Yardley partners. You can now see the status, what was done, what wasn't done. You can see that this task is late. This is the final sign-off. You need to get in touch with Buzz Aldrin and let him know that he needs to complete this job in order to complete the workflow. So tasks in a workflow are no different than any other task. They can be displayed and completed from your task list, as well as your calendar, as well as your dashboard. Okay, let's just talk about the notes for a minute. So here is the last module here called Notes. So on your dashboard, similar to having your personal tasks listed here, you also have your personal notes. These notes are private to you, won't be shared with anyone else. Unlike tasks that can be shared with people within the same department, these notes are just for you. So let's just say you get a phone call from the boss, we'll call it, and you're instructed to make sure you get back to your big client. So get back to client A regarding follow-ups promised. So you don't want to forget this one. So maybe we put this in red to really stand out. And if you really want to get reminded, you could say, I want a reminder tomorrow. Let's just say before the end of the day by 4:30. And now you have an alarm set for 4:30 tomorrow. And 4:30 comes and goes. If you did not address this and then take it off your notes list, your blue light's going to be lit up and the alert will appear here once you click it. Now I'd like to tell you about the various ways we can track individual and department performance. You can see these numbers up here. We have tooltips in all of them. This will be telling you anything that's open for the whole company for today that's still outstanding. No, nothing. 22 late tasks for the firm. What personally is open for you for today and what's personally your late tasks. All these numbers are clickable. If I click this 22, it'll take me to the task list and show me what those 22 tasks are. That's these numbers here. We also have the bar graph here. If you notice the box that lights up over any day you hover over. So if we look at July 13th, you can see that 10 tests were completed on time, 4 completed late, and 2 are still late. If you click anywhere on this bar, it'll once again drill down, take you to the task list, and give you all the individual tasks that made up those numbers. Now, what those numbers on the bar graph represent are these departments. You originally can click and drag what department you want to demonstrate that oversight and have that bar graph for, and then you could turn them on and off accordingly. So if you just wanted to see the statistics for accounting, you would turn off these departments, and now this bar graph only represents accounting. If you want to add others, this is now a cumulative number. You can look at the last 30 days, 3 months, 12 months, month to date, quarter to date, year to date. We also have another section called the monitor, and it's another set of statistics. So there's that same 22 tasks, but if you hover over any part of that broken circle, you can see in descending order that John Glenn has 14, Buzz has 3, and so on. This is telling you what's still awaiting approval. Here's the number on the tasks that are still remaining for July. We also have these statistics down here. So for instance, if you'd like to see for the last 3 months by user who completes their tasks on time, you can see in descending order what those numbers are. If you prefer to see it in a percentage instead, you can see that information in a percentage. Maybe you want to see by department for the last 30 days who completes their tasks late. You could once again get those statistics in descending order in percentages or in actual numbers. And this is another set of the same different types of drop downs to get more statistics. Okay, a couple of the small things just to go over. We've gone over the 3 modules inside of OpsCheck. We went through the dashboard, the monitor, the calendar, alerts, tasks, parents, workflow. We also have an audit trail. So even though we have very robust filtering tools to slice and dice and pivot your views for tasks, we also have an audit trail. So let's just say, for instance, you wanted to see who had added a particular user. You could filter for added user information. Or perhaps you wanted to see who modified a particular task parent. You could see all the task parents that were updated. So there's lots of information you can find here on the audit trail. Also, under your personal profile, you can manage your own email. You could decide which ones you want to receive, which ones you don't. You can customize the columns on your task list and your task parent list. We have a complete user guide, a tutorial section, and then in the admin section, this is where you populate and set up departments, users, and categories. They're very easy to do. Workflow categories you can also create. Here's how you upload your policies and procedures. We also have, if you have offices in different locations, we have holiday calendars. We offer two-factor authentication, single sign-on capability, as well as a bulk upload feature. So there's no need to time. If you have things sitting around on spreadsheets, we have a great format to just translate that over to OpsCheck, and we have clear instructions on how to do all that. A few more things just to mention quickly. We have many ways you could customize your view in OpsCheck, especially in the task area. You can modify task parents. You can even edit an active workflow. You can also use task dependencies, where some tasks will be contingent upon others being completed first. And soon a new feature coming out will be the ability to have a workflow trigger another workflow to get started. And then the last thing I want to show you is this. What I just demonstrated here basically talks about creating these internal departments and all participating in OpsCheck, as well as if you have anyone sitting at home or in any foreign or satellite offices. What's not quite obvious in my demonstration is that you also have the ability, rather than creating your departments with the names of functional areas like treasury or marketing, you can actually create a department either in the name of a service provider and have the people at the service provider as users with only access to that one department. So then they could come into OpsCheck and sign off on jobs that you can keep an eye on, but they'll never see anything else. You can also do that if it's a private equity firm has portfolio companies. You could create a portfolio company as a department and only give the people that work there access to that one department. And once again, you can closely watch what's going on there as well. And then lastly, we have the API. So rather than having to double key anything, if there's activity that gets performed in other applications, you could always have that message systemically sent to OpsCheck to sign off that certain jobs are completed, or a little more sophisticated, if there's any event that took place in the other application, you could send a message to OpsCheck and create a job and assign it to somebody to take care of any particular problem. Thank you, and feel free to contact us for any help or support that may be needed.